this a metal thing?
Yes.
Little taste.
David, what is this?
Pretty big.
Great.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits.
Mistletoe alert.
This is back country.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Hugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, you're such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso.
Horror.
Hello and welcome to Horror Movie Talk, your panel of expert hosts. Each week are Dr. Bryce Hanson, who holds a PhD in spookology, and me, Professor David Doy, the foremost expert in scare no-nos. We have a fabulous episode for you guys today. This is our second time trying to record it. So fingers crossed, everybody. Pray to the internet gods. Today we're going to be, the patrons have, our favorite patrons have a couple of duties. Duty. One of their duties is to pick one movie a month for us to review. They come out of their caskets, they peek through the curtains to check and see if the sun is out, and if it is not, they go about their business choosing a movie for us to review. And this month, they chose What We Do in the Shadows. Very excited about this. I had never seen it before. It was a crime that I hadn't, but now I have, and I'm going to talk about it with Bryce and you. So that's very good. And thank you, patrons, who we will thank shortly.
Yeah, speaking of patrons, let's
Yeah.
thank our newest patron since last week. So we've got
Cram them all in there.
James A, KP, and Alex R. That's just from the last recording. So thank you so much. Oh wait, is that all? That's not all of them.
Yeah, no, I think there's more.
Sorry, Michelle S, KP,
Yes.
Alex R, and McCall B coming in big.
Hell yeah.
Um,
And Emma.
Thank you so much for supporting the show and for participating in that community and voting on movies like this.
That's right. And Emma. Don't forget Emma. If you guys want to check out the show in more detail, you can do so by going to horrormovietalk.com/shop. Over there, you will find our shop, shockingly, where we have Team Bat and Team Spear stickers. That's right. We made stickers out of them. They're nice and cheap. You can go over there, get yourself a nice high-quality vinyl sticker, print on demand, motherfucking printed just for you. So exciting stuff over there if you're not looking to commit to a Team Bat or Team Spear shirt, which is also available there. Also, a lot of other cool stickers and stuff. Take a look around. We post new episodes every single Wednesday, so go ahead and subscribe to us. Toss us a nice review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Give us a call at 682-253-4468, and you'll find yourself on an episode of Horror Movie Horrors, where we take your voicemails. The way this episode's going to go is we'll start out by giving a brief review and our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being great, 5 being average. And then from there, we'll, dive into spoilers. And if you haven't seen the movie, you can dip out and go watch it. You might not know it, but the life or death of a vampire is a lot less romantic and sometimes much more petty and small than you might think. Viago, Deacon, and Vladislav are old vampires trying to make it in a new world. Making it the same way you or I are trying to make it, really. Just trying to kind of make ends meet while accomplishing something looking like some kind of nightlife. I guess I kind of gave up on my nightlife when I had kids, but you might still be trying, and bravo. Well, you're not that different from a vampire. While they manage the chore wheel and keeping their familiars in check, they also get caught up in the wacky hijinks of other somewhat mundane horrors that roam the night in New Zealand there, with Jemaine, Clement, and Taika Waititi. in the end, everyone gets more laughs than they bargained for. You all know what laughter sounds like. My review for What We Do in the Shadows is it's a mockumentary with by notable New Zealanders, like I said, Jemaine Clement, who I remember from Flight of the Conchords, and Taika Waititi, who is hot stuff in Hollywood right now.
I'm just gonna have to correct you right there. The name is Jemaine. There's no R in it.
Oh, Jemaine.
Jemaine. Which is confusing because if there was an R in it with a New Zealand accent, it would just sound like Jemaine.
Jemaine. Jemaine. Oh man, I wonder how often he has to correct people, and they're like, "Hey, Jermaine," and he's like, "It's Jemaine," and they're like,
Yeah. What did I say?
"What did I say?
I do wrong?
He's like, "You said Jermaine. It's
You said Jemaine. It's Jemaine. J.
Well, you would think the harder of the two to pronounce would be Taika's name, but as it turns out, no, it's incorrect.
I love how like all accents, especially in English, are just a matter of where you put the R. You know, it's like with Australian, you know, they'll just put it at the end of anything ending with an O. Like, oh no.
You always gotta be careful with R words, you know. The R is often the most troubling of all the consonants, really. Anywho, this What We Do in the Shadows is fun, it's tight, and it's hilarious. It's shot the normal way a documentary might be shot, but kind of because the setting for much of the movie is a vampire's lair, it's kind of spooky. It kind of feels like a little bit of a what's it called? A found footage movie, a little bit. Apart from some funny jump scares, there's nothing scary about this horror adjacent romp. This isn't hard horror. This is a comedy movie that is horror themed. So, I mean, it fits the bill for horror movie talk. And I don't know where I'm going with this exactly, but What We Do in the Shadows is...
It's almost like we could have a script or something.
What We Do in the Shadows is just for fun, and it's great at it. So much of this had me rolling around the room, shaking my wife about how this is the best thing I've seen since Shaun of the Dead, and I stand by that. Comedy isn't easy, and comedy horror can feel pretty clunky sometimes, but this is sleek and fun, and it smacks deeply of comedy from a show that I miss a lot, known as Flight of the Conchords, which happened to only, I think, have 2 seasons, but it managed to carve out a spot in my heart that in both show form. So number one, I go, wow, that show is great. And then also 2 albums worth of hilarious music that lives in me also, which is a huge accomplishment for 2 seasons of a show.
Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows pays close attention to making all the characters real people, which takes away a lot of the sexy emphasis of normal vampires and replaces it with questions like, how shitty of a roommate would a vampire be? Overall, this is an easy watch that is best experienced with friends and family. The R rating is only earned with comically gratuitous blood and the occasional curse words. But the
werewolves, not swearwolves, David.
Right. The werewolves can only be accused of like, damn, like not high amounts of cursing. Definitely rent this one if you haven't. My score for this is 8 out of 10. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's like pitch perfect what it needs to be. Like it's sorry, I want to apologize. Everyone in my family is sick right now, so I'm like mainlining cough drops.
Ew.
It got caught in the back of my throat. So yeah, it's really stands alone with the great horror comedies of like you said, Shaun of the Dead for the zombies, Tucker and Dale versus Evil for slashers. There's a couple for slashers, but that one in particular for me. And then this one for vampire movies, and it just works. And it's really built off of the performance of the leads and how capable they are with improv and work and like working on their feet. In the IMDb, it talks about how they had a script written, but they basically didn't show it to anyone. They just told people what happened in the scene, like what the beginning and end would be, which is basically how Curb Your Enthusiasm works. Like you're just kind of given the framework and you trust these comedians to pull it off, and in this case they really do. But also it is a really great homage to vampires. Like it touches on all the different like types of vampires and vampire tropes, and creates like a really interesting and funny world. And it's fun to live in for the course of the movie. And from what I've seen of the TV show, it's just as good. You know, the TV show is just as good as the movie. I'd agree with your score, 8 out of 10. It's not something that like blew me away, but it's so fun and delightful while you're watching it that like you just kind of have to see it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel it feels like a movie now I've only watched it the one time, but it feels like a movie that would work just as well on second watch, third watch as it did the first time, just because it is so charming. Um, Whereas for me, movies particularly, I'm thinking of Tucker and Dale, and even Cabin in the Woods, kind of they fall a little bit, but there's a little bit of the magic is lost, because it's situational.
Right.
Whereas this is a lot more timeless. It's kind of a critique on the idea of vampires, and that's what's fun and just the Jemaine and Taika's sense of humor is just dry but fun, and it's all very lighthearted, kind of.
Yeah, I think it's easily compared to Shaun of the Dead because it has much less to do with the twist or the plot than it does with the characters and like their interaction with each other. So like with with Shaun of the Dead, it's just basically there's zombies. What do these characters do in that situation? There's not, and I can't point to any particular turning points in the movie as like super memorable other than just like, you know, lots of conversations and stuff. And you know,
Yeah, it's quotable.
yeah, with Tucker and Dale, it's like, no, there's a certain point at which it turns and you're like, okay, this is hilarious now.
Right.
And like, if you know that's coming up, then it's like, you're just waiting for it, or it has less impact over time. But for what we do in the shadows, it's literally from frame one, just seeing Taika Waititi just mugging for the camera and being just like the sweet dude that's like enthusiastic about showing you his apartment and like showing you his life. I mean, he's
his roommates.
Like the first shot of him like coming up out of the coffin, and he just kind of looks to the side and he's like,
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's really fun, and that lasts for the whole thing. Just seeing how those characters interact, and that's where the fun comes from. And you can put them in pretty much any situation. That's why it works as a TV show too, because you just put them in a bunch of different situations and interactions and relationships, and see where it goes from there. Because the funny part is the fact that they're vampires and they're just like us, you know.
Yeah, it comes across as kind of precious. It's very like I don't know how to say it other than to call it precious. It's just you like everyone, but they're all a little dangerous in a
Right. Well,
in
it's
a
funny in the trivia in IMDb it says Taika Waititi based his performance on his mother, and then Jemaine Clement based his on Gary Oldman and Dracula, which is, I mean, just the
yeah.
fact that he based it on his mother is like, yeah, it kind of comes off. He comes off as a very matronly character in the
Yeah,
movie.
and you have like each of the vampire tropes is represented by a character. Oh, we've been so rude during this interview. Taika's here in the room with us. Could you just kind of move to the side a little bit here, Bryce?
Oh, hey, Taika.
Oh yeah, there he is. Yeah, if you're just listening, we have a YouTube channel. Bryce has Taika in the room with him. He's just remaining quiet. So thanks for joining us, Taika, and we appreciate you and your movie. This was a lot of fun. I like when you came on with that in the background, I didn't even notice. I was just like,
And
it's Bryce's house, and then like
it's just how this is what my office normally looks like. It's just covered in blood.
and then 5 minutes later, I was like, holy shit! Oh, like anyway.
I mean, it's not wrong. My office is chaos if I don't have the green screen up. So, yeah, and again, it's really respectful, or it's like it really shows the different tropes of vampires. Like, so so each of the main characters are based off of a famous vampire movie. So Peter, which we haven't mentioned yet, is basically Count Orlok from Nosferatu.
Mm-hmm.
Deacon is kind of channeling David from the Lost Boys. Vladislav is definitely Gary Oldman's Dracula, especially that first introduction when he opens the
Yeah.
door and they're all like fucking on the ceiling in like
Sideways,
silk sheets
yeah.
and stuff.
Like, give me 20 minutes.
Right. Nick is reminiscent of Edward from Twilight, and Viago is like Louis from Interview with a Vampire. So it's if you like
It's a fun
vampires,
time.
which I do. I don't know if you ever went through a vampire phase, David, but I definitely did in my early teens, and I loved like just the homage to all the vampire stories, and frankly, it's like it's pretty similar to Young Frankenstein, where a lot of it is just taking it straight from the source material, and it's not far off, but putting it in a different light makes it hilarious. Like it's kind of a thing in Dracula that Dracula's kind of a slob. Like he's not
Yeah.
like when I forget the name of the main character. When Jonathan Harker breaks into his room, it's just like there's just a pile of shit on the floor and like a pile of like gold.
I'll bring a
It's like
broom down here.
you just when you just all you have to do is sleep in a coffin. It's not like you need a lot of furniture, you know.
Right.
So yeah,
fucking hilarious movie that I just had a wonderful time watching.
if you're listening to these commercials, you should know you don't have to. If you go to our Patreon and sign up for the, I believe it's the $6.66 tier a month, which is chump change, to be honest.
Chump.
You get early access to episodes without ads. So check that out.
Yeah. Also, you should check out, like I said before, you should check out our shop, horrormovietalk.com/shop. We got the new offerings over there, or the Team Bat versus Team Spear shirts, and also stickers, vinyl stickers that come in 3 different sizes: 3-inch, 4-inch, and 5-inch. You ladies know which one to get. The 3-inch. You can also, and all those were made by our resident artist, Dustin Goebel. He is a man, a myth, a legend with the Teflon dick over there. And he fucks real hard with that dick. It's even if it's just 3 inches, he knows how to use it, you know, and everybody says that's That's what's important. So you can check him out, take commissions. He takes commissions for artwork from you, HMT fans. So contact him at dgoebel 00. That's at DGOEBEL 00 on Instagram. Make your artistic dreams come true. Tell him we sent you.
That's right, David. And also, Horror Movie Talk is brought to you by Luden's Cough Drops.
Ooh.
Oh, look, I can look through it.
Whoa. Whoa,
Taika.
that's fucking trippy,
Where's
bro. Oh, hey,
Luden's Cough
Taika.
Drops and Kleenex brand tissues.
Oh man, I could. Have you ever done anything weird with a box of Kleenexes?
Like, fuck it?
No, like stored your cum in it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like that. Have you? Or fuck it, I guess.
Stored
that's
it.
weird.
No, I think the most I've done is store used Kleenexes after I've gone through it.
Oh, that's grosser than the things that I came up with, I feel like. If you want to get a hold of the show, get on an episode of Horror Movie Whores, you can do so by calling us at 682-253-4468, baby. Thanks again for listening. Let's get into That's the wrong song.
That's right, David.
Oh, that's so spooky.
Spookier.
Okay. I don't know. Okay, Bryce, I don't know how to go through this movie exactly because this movie is just a series of situational events that happen. Like it's I guess we can kind of intro it the way Taika intros it, which is like okay, I wasn't sold when he was coming out of the casket. Like he was levitating like from horizontal to vertical, and he was at like 45 degrees, and he looks over at the camera and he's like, eh? And I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. But I wasn't totally on board until he creeped over to the curtains, and he's like, this is the scariest part. And he's like peeling the curtain back, like, you know, like the sun would fucking kill you. Right. And he's like, it's night. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's fuck. I just was rolling around with laughter at that. I've never seen Taika Waititi act, but he's very good at it. He's delightful and just charming and cute in this.
Well, he's usually in any of his movies, like any of the.
See, I don't know. He's so good that I just don't know.
Well, in the Thor movies that he was in, he was the rock guy.
Mm-hmm.
He voiced the rock guy.
Right.
You saw Jojo Rabbit, right?
Yes, I did see Jojo Rabbit. Was he was in that?
I thought he was. Was he not?
Was he a Nazi? He must have been. I mean,
I think he was a Nazi. I don't know.
Here,
I guess you did not see him.
Oh, he was Adolf. He was Adolf Hitler.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he was Adolf. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, he's definitely a performer, but also just a fantastic director. Like he basically cracked the code on how to make Thor watchable.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, he was a lot of fun in this movie. Like that. I mean, I really can't stress that scene where he peels the curtain back. That, I think that's my favorite scene in the whole movie. Like I was like, oh, okay, you got me. I get it. I get what this is immediately. I'm on board. I got you this chicken. Like, and then he goes around and intros all these caricatures of like standard vampire caricatures, or I should say maybe not standard, but the big ones, right?
Right.
And so when he gets to Nosferatu, that was genuinely horrifying. Like the makeup they did to get the Nosferatu guy. I can't remember what his
Peter.
name was. Oh, Peter. The makeup they did is dead on, which is so horribly disturbing. Like I think about it and I go, wow, like how is it that it's been 100 years since someone tried to redo that? Or maybe I'm just, under researched and people have tried to redo that Nosferatu look since, but isn't
Well,
isn't
yeah,
there or is it Eggers?
yeah. Robert Eggers is remaking Nosferatu, but I've mentioned it before. Shit, what's it called? It's also got Shadow in the name. In the Shadow of the Vampire
Mm,
is another one that used
yes.
Nosferatu. It was like basically uh um a fake making of um Nosferatu,
Right.
starring Gary Oldman. No, not Gary Oldman. Starring shit.
It's
What's his
okay.
name?
Take your time. We're
Willem
here with
Dafoe
you.
as Max
Yes.
Schreck, the guy that played Nosferatu.
Yeah, that was that was at the turn of the century, correct?
That was yeah, it came out 2000.
The turn of the century. Wow.
But yeah, it's funny. People are like asking for like, oh yeah, Willem Dafoe should play Nosferatu in Robert Eggers. I'm like, he literally already did. Like
He did.
he's done that before. You can
Oh,
see a
well,
movie where he's doing that.
maybe they were saying that because I don't know. Maybe I'm giving them probably giving them too much credit. So I see Jemaine Clement and I'm like, oh, okay. This is Flight of the Conchords comedy. And it is. A lot of it is, I mean, is very similar. These are the two writer directors from Flight of the Conchords, Jemaine and Taika, and it feels just as goofy and fun. The soundtrack to this is huge. If you take a look at the soundtrack credits for this show, it is off the charts. These guys have handpicked all their favorite songs and stuff, but my favorite is kind of the Eastern European slash papa kind of like music that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's cute, it's quaint. I listened to a lot of it while writing the review for this. It's just so much fun. It's like I love it. Uh, did much of the soundtrack to this get, or did you watch Flight of the Conchords as it came out or afterwards?
No, I still haven't watched it. I've seen scenes from it. I've seen a lot of scenes, and I've listened to a lot of the music from it, but I haven't. See, to me, I was like, why would I want to sit through the show? The music's the best part. I would just
The
listen to the
music
music.
is the best part for sure, but the show it's clever and witty just like this.
Yeah,
This feels like horror Flight of the Conchords. So
right.
I don't know if that's if that could get you to watch it, I'd be thrilled because it's a great show.
Right.
They introduced the idea of it's kind of cool what you can do with a room full of different aged vampires who are talking to each other.
Right.
Because you can get real fucking weird with it and it's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's like Jemaine says, hey, maybe we should get some slaves. And and Taika's like, that's not, we can't say those things
Yeah. He
anymore.
prefaces that scene with like, sometimes he has some old ideas, and that's like the funny part because as you're talking about the soundtrack, like these vampires are like at a minimum 100 years old and at a maximum like over 1,000. So
Yeah.
what they enjoy in terms of like music and entertainment and what their worldview is vastly different between them. And you put them in the modern world and it's just awkward and fun. It's an interesting idea to think about. It was like if you were 300 years old how up to date would you be in modern culture given that you only experience it at night? You know? I think
I,
Interview with a Vampire touches on it a little bit with like the transition into modern days and like how Brad Pitt's character could, view the sunrise in movie theaters and stuff like that. And in this one they make the transition when they bring on the new vampire and he shows them like the internet and all that and like TV and movies and stuff a little more. Which I also has one of my favorite moments when um what's his name? What's the name of the new vampire guy?
oh, he's the fucking worst. He's he's the actual worst. Is it
Oh,
is it
Nick.
Nick?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Nick.
Nick.
When Nick comes on, or is it Stu that shows him all this stuff? Anyways, one of my favorite parts is they get on Facebook and they're like finding old flames or whatever, and it's like, so what can you just look at them? You're like, yeah, you can follow them or you can poke them, and then
Yeah, it's Poke.
Vlad just like looks. It's like you can
Let's do
because
it.
he's Vlad the poker.
The Impaler. Yeah, yeah. The okay, so do you remember when poking was a thing in social? It's still a thing. You can still do it.
Can
How
you still
long is it?
poke people on Facebook?
Do you remember? You remember that, right? You're very old.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to.
Dude, it's
I
been
mean,
like
I
fucking
only
15
associate
years
it
since
with
people poked. 15. Think about
right.
that.
Yeah, we're old as fuck, bruh.
Dude, there are people who listen to our show who have no idea what we're talking to us about
Right.
what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, social media used to be a lot more flirty and less serious. It's like,
Yeah.
ooh, poke.
Dude, what do you think Tom from MySpace is doing right now? He's steering clear of all this bullshit.
He probably, in my mind, he looks exactly the same, and is constantly just looking at the camera, just like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, dude. Tom is living his best life. Like, dude, talk about. No one feels bad about Tom. Like, no one fucking hates Tom. But everybody's like, and I mean, rightly so. Like, our new overlords are like Zuckerberg and Musk and Bezos. But Tom's, I mean, he's kind of what brought about a lot of this bullshit, and no, everyone's like, yeah, they remember him in the same way they remember Napster, which is like downloading Metallica music and like being like that.
Is MySpace still even online? Like,
Oh, hell yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's kind of gotten a breath of fresh air, I think. It's
well,
it's
they transferred it more to like a music
music. Yeah.
site after Justin Timberlake bought it or whatever. But yeah, MySpace, man. After Elon, destroys Twitter, like I guess we could go back to MySpace.
After it's isn't it kind of gone? It's like
this whole thing is so funny. It's like everyone all of a sudden cares about Twitter intensely.
It's like
after
a shit.
A billionaire just buys it. It's like, no, I'm intensely interested in the staffing and development of this
The downfall of
40-year-old
humanity.
website. And everyone has been just waiting for Twitter to finally fail and drop off of the face of the internet, just because its business has been so miserable for the last like decade.
And he's just speeding up the shittiness of it. It's like, great, cool. Like, can we just all be done with social media, generally speaking? Like, that'd be great if we could just get rid of this cancer on society. Anyway, move on. Let the vampires take over. I'd appreciate it. So let's get back into it. I love that the Taika vampire wants the house clean and tidy, and all of his roommates are they do not care. Like, I love that he puts down newspaper before he kills this woman. He's like lining the room, like, and then he
hits an artery and just
hits
sprays
an
everywhere. It's like, oh
artery.
fuck.
And the room ends up looking like the room you're in right now. It's covered in blood. He's like, shit, I hit an artery. And she's like, and all she's dying. And all he can be concerned with is like getting his mouth over the the spray. He's like, you know, like.
Yeah. I love there's like a couple. So the best part of this movie is like all the little moments, like just it's kind of like The Office, where it's like it's not necessarily the biggest jokes or like premises that make you laugh. It's literally just a look into the camera and you're like, perfectly timed.
Yeah.
It just makes you enjoy it. So like when what's his name? Yeah, when Viago is like, yeah, I mean, we need to, put down newspapers because last time you brought in a girl, you got blood all over my nice antique couch. And he's like, the red one? He's like, well, now it's red.
Now it's red. Yeah, it's great. I also like how little they care about people, about human beings. Like they use them as slaves. Like they have their familiars, which are basically their bitches who just do anything they want, and they keep them in a contract of like, I'll turn you into a vampire once you do my dishes. Like you got to do my underwear in the laundry. You got to do that. And hey, you're on the fast track. You're going to be a vampire. It's endless. It's going to be great. We just got to clean up first. And then, but there's an exception, which is, this fella Stu, who is just like this innocuous person who's just like unprogrammer, who just happens to somehow garner the respect and love of all these vampires. Everybody in the movie just fucking loves Stu for some reason.
Right. It's so he's the like basically best friend of Nick, the newest vampire that gets converted, and he just brings Stu around because he's a good friend, and the rest of them, I love it because they're like, yeah, I mean, just look at him. Look how red his cheeks are. He's just ready. He's so full of blood. He's ready to pop. And probably the most interesting trivia out of this, as I was reading it, was that guy. Well, his real name is Stu.
Oh, Stu. Sorry.
And they basically brought him. Let me read this. He hadn't had any acting role prior to the movie. He was an extra before, but he was brought in as a part-time. He was hired for the film under the impression that he would be working on computers and that he would play a small part in the film. So it's literally like they just told him like, oh yeah, you're hired to help with computers on the film. So they just basically hired the guy that would be Stu,
Dang.
in this situation and let him like in these situations. And it's genius because he acts exactly like you'd expect someone like that to be, just like kind of being just around,
Yeah.
Not hamming it up, not like reacting strongly. He's just there.
It's a blast. It's a lot of fun. Stu is okay. So you got Nick, who gets kind of like accidentally like turned into a vampire, and he's a dick. Like everyone's just like fucking Nick telling everybody about him being a vampire. Like Nick gets everybody in this house in a lot of trouble. Like he alerts a vampire hunter to the whereabouts of their enclave, which ends up being the death of Peter, the Nosferatu vampire. And Nick's a real dick, but he brings Stu around and he can't shut up about how he's like, look, Stu's my friend. No matter how red his cheeks are and delicious looking he looks, I'm not gonna kill him. And like, despite the fact that everybody agrees that Nick's a dick, they recognize that Stu is like a cool guy. Like you can't we
Right.
can't hurt Stu. Like, he's Stu. It's like there's something universal about just acknowledgement of like, no, he's a cool guy. What are you doing? Like, he taught us how to use Google. Like,
Yeah.
it's a great thing. Stu
Probably
and Nick.
probably one of my lines, and I think we already skipped over this part, but there's some like really great lines and moments in this movie, but my absolute favorite, and I think I shared it before, was they're trying to get virgins. They're trying to like source out some virgins to eat,
Yeah.
and they're like,
This is
"Yeah,
this is an epic line.
yeah." It was, they're like, "Yeah, a lot of people wonder why, we choose virgins instead of other people," and I think it's Vlad is the one that says like, "Well, let me put it to you like this: like, if you're gonna eat a sandwich, wouldn't you just prefer that no one had fucked it?"
Wouldn't you enjoy it more if you knew no one had fucked it? Like, it's I mean, that's the kind of line that you build this movie around. Like,
Right.
they could have had like that could have been the seed from which this movie grew, because that line is, it's an epic line of amazing proportion. Like, I really can't, I
Right.
cannot think of a better line for any movie ever. Like, that's some sort of, and then they fuck with the way they fuck with their like their the people who they're gonna eat is they get biscotti. We got we give them biscotti. You can't say spaghetti. They all say biscotti. And then they make them look like worms, so the people think that they're eating worm. I don't
Right.
know. It's
So in
a
like all
lot.
the vampire movie tropes of like having these magical creatures that like torment people and are able to shapeshift to do all this stuff, they frame it in a way where it's like all those things they can do, but they look just kind of like dorks whenever they do it. you know,
Yeah.
when Vlad is like, "Yeah, I'm excellent at transforming, but it's I'm getting a little older, so I don't quite have the faces right anymore."
The
And later,
cat.
like, turns into a cat, and it has like the face of Jemaine Clement on it.
Yeah. And none of the bits overstay their welcome. Like, you expect them to keep going back to these wells, and they do a little bit, but not to the extent that that you would really expect some of these things to do with the callbacks. They keep it pretty fresh. One of the there's not a lot of necessarily story to this movie, but there is just kind of like a through line, which is kind of the nightlife aspect of this whole thing. And one of the elements of the nightlife is you bump into, as you follow these vampires around in this mockumentary, is they bump into a clan of werewolves, or a pack, I suppose, of werewolves, and they're werewolves, not swearwolves. And and they're all kind of like really working on themselves. Like, the werewolves are all kind of
Yeah, it's like
delightfully aware of their dark side, and trying to fight against it.
it's like a 12-step program for werewolves.
Yeah. They're actively chaining themselves up to trees when they know it's time to turn. We gotta fight against it. And they really were, it's just cute. It's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
really humanizes werewolves. I don't know.
and like they come across other random vampires, like when they're out. They come
Yeah.
across like some like child vampires. Like, you going out to hunt some perverts? Like, yeah, we're gonna meet up with a pedophile later. I'm like, all right, cool.
Cool. Have a good one. Yeah. They Google pictures of virgins.
Mm-hmm. I love it. At the end when he's like, leave me, he's on the internet. Leave me to do my dark bidding on the internet. What are you bidding on? I'm bidding on a table.
I love one of the bits is so Nick has just been recently turned into a vampire, and he's like testing out all of his new, what you would do. You test I can fly everywhere. Who doesn't want to fucking fly? And he like can't get in the window. He hasn't worked it out. Like, why don't you just come in the door? And he's like, I can fly. It was like, but
Yeah.
my favorite part of Nick getting used to being a vampire is he eats a fry. One fry. And they're like, whoa, don't do that. You don't want to eat regular food. And he's like, I'll be fine. And then like it just cuts to him just like massive amounts of blood coming out of it. Just like
Right.
throwing up tremendous fire hydrants of blood. It's great.
Yeah. And then his response is like, being a vampire shit. Can't eat fries anymore. This is bullshit.
It's my favorite thing. I love fries.
I don't like being
chips.
a vampire anymore. It's like the fact that he's been a vampire for like a couple months and he's like pretty into it. And he's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And he's showing off like all of his skills and stuff. And the fact that he realizes like, oh, I'm a vampire now. He's like, oh, this is shit. Do not recommend.
Yeah, he tips off a vampire hunter who, like I said, ends up killing the Nosferatu Peter, and but it isn't in response to that. The cops are called, and they kind of glamour the cops to be like, you're not going to notice anything out of place. And so what ends up happening is you have this kind of really tense scene where the cops show up. And they're like, you don't have a smoke detector in here. And it's like, there's a fucking burnt up body on the ground. And, and the cops are like, where's the fucking smoke detector? It's like, there's so much of this works. It's just very funny.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, there's a kind of like a vampire, what would you call it? Like a party, like a vampire.
Yeah, like a ball.
Yeah. And
a monster mash.
Thank you.
It was a graveyard smash.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not just vampires, it's zombies and I don't think they have werewolves in there. They're kind of prejudiced against werewolves, but
right. Yeah, there are zombies. That's right. There's like 2 zombies.
And witches, I think.
Yeah. And
I love the zombie is like, yeah, we tried to get away from the because it's just people don't respect us, and then he's trying to introduce his other zombie friends, and they're just like, less groaning. All right, guys, just you're making us look bad.
Yeah, at the end it becomes a thing where everybody realizes how cool Stu is, but then he gets turned, right? I can't. Stu
gets attacked by werewolves, and he turns into a werewolf. But they mourn Stu for a couple days. They're like, oh man.
Yeah. It's a great movie. I would recommend this to. I mean, if you can stand copious amounts of comedic blood, you can stand this movie. This is a very easy and funny watch. If you love comedy, this is just a fun time.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend the TV show too. The TV show like does not lose much in the translation and has a different cast. But like it has Matt Berry. Is it Matt Berry? Is that what his name is? The guy that's in the Toast of London from the you gotta push the button.
I don't know.
Let me just look it up real quick. Yeah, Matt Berry is his name. And they've got a different cast of characters, but it's pretty close to the setup of the movie, and it's pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so I have to. Have you watched all of the show?
No, I've watched most of the first season. Or I might have gotten to the second season, but I haven't finished it. It's a good like casual viewing. You don't have to like sit and binge it or anything.
Is Jemaine in it?
They do. There's cameos.
Okay.
There's kind of a big moment. I don't want to necessarily ruin it, but there's a moment in the mid part or the end of the first season that's like just a cameo fest. That
He's in.
includes all the guys from the movie.
Yeah, he's in. It looks like he's in 2 episodes of it. That's it.
Yeah.
But it also looks like Taika is involved in a lot of the show. So.
Right. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Yeah, so definitely check this one out. This is an easy recommendation. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, for listening to the show.
Good day, sir. You lose. You get nothing.
Is that a raincoat?
Yes, it is.
I just had to stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Horror.
Wow, that didn't sound good.